Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a disassembly for you of this little guy right here. This is the Tangram Knives Vector. So actually, I got a little confession to make. I just a moment ago tried to do a disassembly video with this guy, but it was really struggling. They were using some kind of a serious thread locker in there, and so I put it aside, thinking, okay, well, I'll scratch this video, maybe I'll use some heat. And then I busted out my little T8 with a little bit more torque there and gave it another shot, and it did pop loose, so that's why that was coming out a little bit too tight. But and you know, sometimes I do that on camera, but I wasn't sure whether I was going to bother, and so I gave it a shot. But whatever, it's disassembled now, and well, no, actually, it's not quite yet, but still. So we're doing the disassembly here, and let's make this happen. A couple of things to highlight though about this guy. This is the Kaiser Tangram Vector, and this is a budget-friendly knife coming out of the Kaiser company, and it is a button-lock knife, and button locks are a little bit different than the norm, and so that's the reason I really fought through it. You know, on the Santa Fe, which was also thread-locked shut. Is that captive within the liner? No, okay. That was a very different thing. Oh, Teflon. Oh, Teflon. All right, but anyways, that's a slightly different affair, and so I figured I'd want to show that off, perhaps more than usual, for a regular knife here. This guy, right now, as it came out of the box, did not have an incredible action. It was a little stick slippy, etc. I know what you're thinking. Well, Nick, it's Teflon. What do you want? Yeah, well, yeah, that's exactly it. And so I suspect that actually by judiciously cleaning and applying some lubrications, things like that, we should be able to make an improvement over the stock action for this little guy. So I'm going to start off actually here just by cleaning things out. As is always the case, there is gunk sometimes left over from the factory, and especially if you're dealing with a knife that's, you know, mass-produced, and especially if you're dealing with a knife that's mass-produced to hit a budget price point, you can very often make serious gains just by doing an initial disassembly and replacing whatever cheapy oil they were using, if any oil at all, because that is a factor here, with something, well, worth a damn. So yeah, next thing, is there really only one Teflon washer in this thing? That can't be. There's this one here. I mean, don't get me wrong, fewer Teflon washers is better, but that's asymmetrical. Or was it? Oh, no, here, it's on the other side of this guy. Okay, good. Sorry about the heat kicking in, guys, but welcome to pure Michigan over here. But the reason, one other thing that I'm going to do here, and I'll kind of illustrate. Very often companies do this thing where they put the Teflon washers along with the phosphor bronze. I don't entirely get that. It could be that they just don't have a washer that's quite thick enough, so they're using it as a spacer. It could be that they think it makes it smoother when run unlubricated, and I guess there's some truth to that. But still, there are reasons why that could be the case, but very often it results in an action that's pretty uninspiring. And so what we're going to do here is address that a little bit more directly. And the way that we're going to do that is actually by tuning the action a little bit to mitigate that. So we are now cleaned out and everything. Little button lock part here. Remind me to show. You can't remind me to do a damn thing. You're just watching. Anyways, I will try and remind me to show how the button lock works down the road here. But what we're going to do here is start off by applying the Teflon washer. And actually, I'm going to put the Teflon washer on the back side here completely dry. Because my hope, my dream, my fondest desire is that it just basically won't turn. It'll be in the back there and just kind of exist. Then we're not going to put any lubrication on this side of this washer here, because again, my goal here is to have the back portion of this washer not turn. What I want here, and I'm going to lubricate the front of the washer then, what I want is that the Teflon and the phosphor bronze washer don't actually ever spin, and instead it just kind of acts like a fixed washer on this end, and then the blade spins against the actual washer. Because that'll result in an action that feels more phosphor bronzy, that does smooth out over time, etc. As opposed to, as it was done here to start with, where you're always basically going to be feeling blade against Teflon, which gives you that unfortunate stick slippy sort of thing that, well, I'm not a big fan of. So again, on the other side here, I'm going to go ahead and try and leave everything dry. And there we go. Okay, so now we're going to reassemble the button lock. The button lock works, by the way, by having this little guy, this little button lives in this place here. And when the button is popped up, For instance, here, it's got this little spring underneath it that keeps the button pressed up. And when the button is pressed up, it goes into this little indentation in the blade here and then stops the blade from moving. And then when you press the button down, come on. It's a little weird because I've got everything disassembled. When you press the button down, well, the stop pin in this case comes flying out because that's, that's life. But when you press the button down, the button is no longer obstructing the blade path, so the button can move, and then here the blade pops back up again. This provides some degree of a detent. Nice. It's a good approach. Honestly, I like button locks. I think there's a lot of joy to them, and they're actually not so hard to disassemble either. So, but I'll show you, I'll show you the trick here to doing this, which is something I learned actually during an epic hour-and-a-half long disassembly session on Instagram with a ProTech half-breed, which is an automatic, which just made my life a little easier. It's not easy at all. But the way that if you just try and shove the button lock in here right now, it's not going to happen. You can't do it. And similarly, if you try, because the blade is in the position where the button lock needs to be. So instead, what you need to do is actually lift the blade up a little bit and then drop the blade down onto the button lock, so that the button lock is effectively going to be in the position that it needs to be when the blade is closed. And this will allow the button lock to seat properly. But should I be? I'm going to put a little tiny bit of lubrication here. But that'll allow everything to seat in properly. Just rotate. There we go. And at the same time, there we go. And that's in position. Once I have this other liner in here, everything should work out just okay. Just fine, that is. But yeah. All right, unfortunately, this has a D-shaped pivot here, and that D shape needs to face directly backwards, and it doesn't right now. Generally speaking, I would be doing fancier things, but for the moment, I'm just going to use my pliers and drop in there and put this all on here. There we go. Shouldered standoffs. Everything clicks into place. Everything's lubricated. I will lubricate the blade tang as well, but I'll do that after I've got everything put back together, because right now there's a little bit of upward force from the button lock itself. It's pressing things apart, so I want to get everything back together as quickly as I can. Next thing, I'm going to use a little bit of blue Loctite here, and just trying to keep a downward force to make sure the knife doesn't disassemble itself. And I'm going to apply that in the back here. There we go. Beautiful. Here we go. Pop that in there. Beautiful. Now we'll pop the pivot in place. Case closed. Beautiful. And here I'm using a blue Loctite rather than drowning it in the white stuff as they did here, which is not beautiful. Now I'm going to use the pivot itself. That'll pull this other side of the pivot kind of into position. That'll make things a little too tight, but I can back things off again, work with it. All right. That's better. See, that is a much better action. I wish I'd shown off the action previously, but okay, now we have substantial blade play. That's why the action's so good. Let's go ahead and tighten things down a little bit. Okay, that was a little too tight. Looks like there's going to be a happy medium here that I got to find. No play. That's good. Can I go a little looser? Blade play. Okay, no, I cannot go a little looser. And the thing is, this should smooth in over time. There we go. That's not bad. Still playing. Don't hate the blade player, hate the blade game. Actually, I hate the blade player. Let's be real. There we go. Now, can I back it off very, very minutely? I mean, seriously, look at the degree that my driver is turning here. Yeah. Sometimes, especially in knives like this, where you really, there's kind of a razor's edge, not on the knife, but in the theoretical, figurative one, where that's really the key distinction here, that can actually make all the difference. It's not like a super smooth one, but it's also on the washers. It's got the Teflon, etc. Yeah. There you go. Alrighty, so the knife is now disassembled, and this will smooth out further over time, but the knife is now disassembled, maintained, and happy, go freaking lucky. Hope this has been interesting to you, and have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.